Are you planning on racing 70.3 Calgary this year and you're wondering what the course is going to be like? Well, this is the video for you because in it, myself and a local coach are going to go through the swim, the bike, the run. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about all you need to do to have a belter of a race day in Canada. So, let's get to it. But who are we? Now, my name is Stephen Moody, or Coach Steve. I'm a YouTuber and also an award-winning coach from Ireland that does race reviews of 70.3s and full distance around the world. Why? Because I actually like helping people have a good race day experience. But how do I do this? I reach out and I connect with kind of cool, was it like-minded and expert people in different courses who will be able to talk. I'll ask all the questions you have as an athlete to these experts, and we can fill your boots with all the knowledge you have. And in that regard, I am absolutely delighted to be talking to Todd Malcolm from Canada, who's going to talk us through 70.3 Calgary. Todd, welcome on board and going to give us a little bit of background to yourself so people know that you're all you're at.
Oh, thanks, Steve. Yeah, thanks for asking me to be on this interview. It's a pleasure to share my knowledge about Calgary 7.3. Yeah, I've been living in Calgary since 1988, so a long time. It definitely is my home city, and yeah, I love it. I started coaching a long time ago, kids, and I went full time into coaching in 2001. So I've been in this sport a long time. Coach athletes from pure beginners up to athletes who want to win the race, and everybody in the middle. And for myself, I've done races from sprints all the way up to Ironmans. I've done 21 iron distance events and 10 triathlon world championship. So I've been around a few times and I think I know what I'm doing.
Oh, absolutely. And you're just back from New Zealand as well for the World Champs there. How did that go? Did we work out
Yeah,
well?
it
I know
was a
you had a
great
bit of
race.
a
I fully enjoyed New Zealand. It was a beautiful, beautiful island. I've never been there before. So every day was spectacular and I absolutely loved it. The race course was phenomenal. We had a nice calm day for the swim. The bike was rolling through Lord of the Rings pasture and the run along Lake Taupo. It was beautiful. Crowds were thick, cheering loud. It was everything I could have wanted for, and it was really, really a great experience.
fantastic. And then off to Spain for next year. As in, you do love your World Championships, mate. I like it.
You know what? I started doing the Worlds back in 1998 in Lausanne, Switzerland, and yeah, I got hooked. I got hooked, and it was just something that I love to do, and it's something I like to kind of shoot for, have that as a goal, and then train to do it. And you get to hang out with really interesting people from all over the world. And that's why I like chatting with you today. Like you're from Ireland, you're not from Canada. It's great. And you got a really cool accent.
And as I said, I'm bloody good looking. That's why people watch the videos. Actually, they want
Yeah.
to watch, they want to get into the course details. So let's dive into it. We will start off with our swim course in Alberta. It looks like it is a two-loop course with a Australian exit. Do you want to talk us through what people can expect on the day? Water temp? Was it things in the water, etc.?
Things in the water. Well, there should be nothing in the water, so that should be good. I mean, looking at the temperature there, they said it's 18 degrees, and I would say that's fairly accurate. Some lakes in Calgary may be above that, but because of that lake and how it's fed, I think it's river fed, so it stays a little bit cooler. So you're looking for sure probably at a wetsuit swim, which is good. I remember last year we were thinking, is it going to be wetsuit or not? And I encourage people to get comfortable swimming without a wetsuit, but it was wetsuit legal, and yeah, it was fine. So yeah, like you mentioned, it's two loops, and you can see there's four turns you got to do. Um, One of the challenging parts of this in the morning is the sun is coming up on the right hand side. So when you're swimming into the buoy and coming back, you're swimming, well, depending on how you're breathing, but you're heading into the sun. So I encourage people to get the tinted lenses so that they're not blinded when they're swimming. The start, this is only, I don't think you can see my cursor, but that first leg is 125 meters.
Yeah.
Not that far, but it can get pretty congested. As long as they stick to the pulse start, then it should be okay, but sometimes they don't. Last year they were pretty good keeping to the pulse start because it spreads people out. Otherwise, this first section around the buoy can be pretty congested. Even all the way up to the first two turns can be congested.
When you say pull
What
start, is that a rolling start, or like is this a Canadianism where they actually just allow people in four by four? Is that what they call a pull start?
Yeah, it would be a rolling start. And I
Okay.
don't, if they do, so that, yeah, it says five swimmers every 5 seconds, which is fine because if you have 1,000 swimmers, you need to get them in because you have two loops. What happens? And you're doing this pulse swim, and you start off fastest to slowest. Once the fastest swimmers go through, and when they're starting the second loop, you have to come out, hop back into the water, and this section here, you'll probably run into the back of the pack right about
Yeah.
right. Can you see my cursor?
No, I can't actually. So, but if you
Oh,
tell
okay.
me,
So I think you can, but you can't. When you get to that, like that second red buoy, it gets pretty congested. You have people, they're new to the sport. They're doing backstroke, they're doing breaststroke, they're
yeah,
kind of all over the place. So you got to really keep your head up if you are a good swimmer about navigating through the swimmers. And then once you come back for the final leg, you're swimming into the sun is on your left hand side. It can be a bit of a challenge coming through there with all the extra bodies, people swimming different paces. But even saying that, I found that the swim last year really wasn't that bad. But I encourage people to really get comfortable swimming in open water, swimming in the lake, because navigating through the lake is much different than swimming in a swimming pool.
yeah, no, absolutely, and especially with the fact they also have an Australian exit. By the way, I've done a load of I've done a load of Australian reviews, and none of them have an Australian accent. I was so disappointed. So, we might need to rename it, but that itself, as in when you're coming out of the water, coming out of the water, an Australian exit as is when you actually, that by definition, you come out of the water. You're going from being vertical to horizontal, horizontal to vertical, and then you run it and back into the water. So that itself is a key skill that you're coming out. Your blood flow has to adjust, and then you have to dive back into the water. You're not going to replicate that in the pool. So yes, and it's something you can do in a lake yourself, and just getting used to not hopping up too quickly, because otherwise the blood goes from your head down to, so was it down to your legs, and you get that jelly leg concept. Um, it's definitely going to be wetsuit, I presume, with that temperature as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, 18 degrees is a good temperature to swim at. It really, really is with a wetsuit. Now, to the Australian exit, I think you kept saying Australian accent. The Australian exit, Aussie exit. So we never practice that. Even in the lake, we never do. Maybe we should, but we never do. And the reality is, like I watched a bunch of these races, is the lead athletes, like you get like, the top 50, they're coming out and when they come out, they're running. They're
Yeah.
running. Again, they're pushing it. The rest of the race, they're not running. They're slowly coming up. They're walking around the buoy. They're walking into the water. It's a slow progression coming out and coming in. So I would encourage people not to worry about the Aussie exit at all because you're just swimming, you come up gradually, you're walking around the buoy, and then you walk back in. But a good tip I tell a lot of people, if you are competitive, or even if you're not, um, when you come out of that first lap, what I do is I look around and say if I come out and I see Steven right beside me, I'm like, oh, Steven just swam the same speed I am. I'll actually intentionally slow down. I'll let him, I'm like, you go first because you're so good looking. You go first, and I'm gonna draft you for the whole second loop because I feel like I'm being a nice Canadian, but I'm not. I'm just gonna draft and save my energy so that when we finish, I feel like, yeah, I feel good. And Steven's like, oh man, why was that so hard?
You were being a sneaky Canadian.
Sneaky
Oh,
Canadian.
a clever Canadian.
Yeah.
No, that's a
So
brilliant tip.
that's a fun thing that you can do is when you come out, and I use that chance to say if my goggles are leaking, get some of the water out, or if they're fogged, just dip them in so you can see where you're going. I think having good goggles, good visibility is key because you got some turns and things that you really need to be aware of where you're going so you're not swimming way off course.
Yeah, and it's a really good point to make about drafting. It's a key skill in 70.3 and full distance racing. As in, like, yes, you'll hear people talking about drafting being illegal. They're talking about the bike. Drafting is 100% the strategy you want to do in terms of saving your energy for the bike and the run later on. And again, that's drafting for the swim is when you're literally swimming on someone's feet or on their hip and you're actually allowing them do a bit more work. And it's just think about when you're in a pool, as in like how much easier is when you're right behind your friend's feet and all the rest. That's the same in open water swimming. Just I think
Oh yeah.
15 to 20% energy saving, possibly more. So why wouldn't you? The and again, it's also a key thing what we you guys call a pulse start. Again,
I
learning.
don't think we call it. I think it's just the race has it up there as a pulse start. I don't think it's like a normal lingo that we use, to be honest. I don't know.
Just
But I
be
think of
proud
it
of
as a
your
rolling start.
Canadianisms. Don't worry. Don't back up on this, Todd. I I heard it in the grassy high. Um, but again, just again for people who are new to it, if like again, you won't see this in your local domestic race. If it's your first step up to a 70.3, and it's quite an Ironman specific thing because what they do is in years gone by, they used to have mass starts and people were like they'd be a floating starts and they'd have people running into the beach. It looks brilliant. It's scary as hell if you're an outsider, and it just to put off people signing up. So Ironman came up with this innovation where they call a rolling seated pull start, whatever you want to call it, but it's effectively a way of controlling the entrance into the water. And what will happen is I have this picture here is that this is typically how it works that the volunteers there'll be kind of these gates you'll turn up and there'll be pens, right? There'll be numbers in the pens and they'll sort of go under 30 minutes, 30 35 minutes, 35 to 40 minutes. And that is based on your estimated swim time. So if you swim 2 minutes per 100 in a pool, you're really realistically going to be a 40-minute swimmer. And that's where you should be. And that should be your pen. So you go in and then it allows Arman to release all the faster swimmer first. And they do this by, as you see, they have these little gates here. Dum, 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 dum. And these volunteers, and I always say thank you to volunteers, they've given up their time, they're not getting paid, and they're just kind of happy to help you race. Beep will go off and they'll raise their arms and they'll let in five or four, depending on the gates, swimmers at the time. So in this way, you've got five. These guys have just been released. The hands are going. This beep will go off in another 4 seconds and they control the flow of the swimmers in. It takes away from the anxiety of the mass start. It also allows faster swimmers and swimmers of the same level to bundle together and it should be able to draft more effectively. And if you do it right, you'll have a better swim day. If you do it wrong and you sort of go, oh, listen, I think today I've woken up and I think I'm a 30-minute swimmer. I've never swum faster than 2 minutes 15 in my life. I'm going to go in beside the fish guys. What will happen there is stronger swimmers will swim right over you. And like as Todd has correctly pointed out, got congested here. And if you're in the way of a stronger swimmer who's looking for his age group win, he's not sort of going, oh, that's cute. He's doing breaststroke. He's just going to go over you. So don't put yourself in that situation. They'll be much more polite on the second loop because they know that they're catching up. But if they see that you're in the first loop and you go like, what is this dude doing? He knows it's an honest system. He knows he's never swam faster than 30, 40 minutes in his life. Proceed yourself accordingly. It makes for an easier day. No one wants to push it. They don't want to have that getting dunked in the water and like or just even slow down swimmers. Any other hints or tips on that, Todd?
It happens all the time. I'm a fairly fast swimmer. I'm not the fastest by no means, so I know that I will never put myself in the front of the race unless it's a smaller race. But I'll put myself in the top 20 or top 30, which is still pretty far up there. However, what I do sometimes is I look around, and I know you can't judge a book by its cover, but sometimes you can. And you can tell, dude, you should not be here because you are going to get swum over. And so sometimes, I don't usually do it, but you can hear people say, "Hey, how fast are you going to swim?" And just be honest
Yeah.
with the answer, because like Steven said, the faster swimmers, they'll swim over you. Like when they go, they're very, very, very competitive and they'll just swim over you. Now, just saying that though, if you're in front of a faster swimmer, like in 125 meters, I don't know. I just rarely it happens right in the beginning. But if you are a slow swimmer, do not start at the front.
Yeah.
Go back to where you think you should be.
Yeah, and like I said, I raced in 70.2 to Duisburg. I said you said you like racing in Europe. It's a super 70.3. Very curious. And we were all lining up, and myself and my friend were in 30, 35 minute corral, and we know, like, and you're talking to guys, and go, yeah, 'cause you're also trying to figure out who you're going to draft off, and go, yeah, no, I did that, and go, but we were watching, and just there was no pro field, but the top guys were hopping in, and you could see, the guys that they're diving in, they're pristine dive, and they're on it. And then there was some guy who came to the pontoon and let himself in, sat down and started breaststroking and went, "Oh no, that's
Oh
not going to
gosh.
work." And he did. He was actually blown out to the side as an and I think he had to wait until everyone else went. And he said he's just made it. His heart rate's high. He's in a bit of a panic mode. Just siege yourself honestly, and you'll have plenty of time to get around. Right, we're going
But
to
there,
move on quickly. Just a kind of a quick one for people who are new. 1 hour and 10 minutes is your cutoff time. And again, by the way, that's also a beauty of the pull start. Your time only starts when you cross the mat. And again, this is where people make the mistake. I'm close to the cutoff time. I'll put myself in the higher corral. Don't do that. Your timing only starts when you cross the mat. Sorry, Todd, do you have any last minute swim tips you want to add in there before we move on?
I just wanted to say that, we were talking about placing where you start. I just don't want new beginners to get freaked out by that. Um, I know that this race has a lot of beginners, and it could be your first time open water, could be your first time in a wetsuit, first time doing this event. You can still have a very good race. Just put yourself where you should be. And what I suggest you do is do open water test a little bit before the race and see, well, what is your swim going to be? And then know in your head, okay, I'm going to swim about 40 or 50 minutes or whatever. And then when it comes to race day, put yourself put yourself there. And like Steven said, if you think you're going to be swimming, an hour 10, you're worried about it. That does not mean you should start at the front, because you could get into a world of trouble. Like this, for example, if you're not a strong swimmer and you say, I'm going to put myself near the front, you could get, if I'm swimming along with you and I still try to be gentle, but if I happen to hit you in the head, just for whatever reason, your breath you get out of sync, and you start to panic, and you got to go to the side, get yourself under control, find a surfboard to get ready. You're going to lose time trying to get ready, or you might even end up going back because you're like, I can't do this. And you get freaked out. So it's best for you to place yourself in the start where you should be. I know there's the idea that getting farther up may seem like a good idea, but it really can be disastrous.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, Todd. I think the key point here, you can set yourself for a good swim day by being honest and knowing your pace and putting yourself with like-minded swimmers. Because if you're going to swim 50, 55 minutes, if you're swimming beside someone who's going to swim 50 to 55 minutes, that's a little draft pack straight away. As there's no point putting yourself in 45 minutes because they're just going to blast on and set yourself
Yeah.
up for success. Righty ho, listen,
One
you
more
can,
one more thing too. Oh, what was it? Oh, I forgot about it. Go ahead. Carry on.
you can tell you're a swimmer. You love to talk about the swim course. We have a whole race to go through.
I know. Go.
Alrighty. Bit about transition. It is a single transition. Is that correct, Todd?
Yeah. When transition.
Okay, cool. And it's what they call, and again, this is me learning the lingo. Is it a traditional transition as opposed to a clean transition? Clean transition is where they use the blue and red Ironman bags, whereas traditional is where they just have everything beside the bikes.
Look at all these new
I
slangs and
know.
sayings I'm learning today too. This is great. You're informing me on all the Canadian sayings. I love it. Yeah, so I think this one, you're right. They don't have the Iron Man bags, the blue and red bags. You do it old school, and then you put your towel down and you lay out what you're going to wear on race day.
Fantastic. And then this is where they've done some really funky maps. Every other 70.3 and Ironman have these very standard maps, but like the Canadians have these really funky ones, which look like they're kind of, I don't know, I can't make out how they've done it, but it's awesome. So here's our swim lap. So that's where you're going to do your Australian exit, and then you're going to come through here for your fine on your second lap. You're coming out, and it looks like you're coming up here and into all our bike racks here. Um, what are your top tips for people getting ready for a transition for their first 70.3 transition, Todd?
What I do is I get people to think about transition before they get to transition. So when you have about 200 meters to go in the swim, yeah, back to the swim, I start to I what I get people to do is first of all just be grateful that you got through the swim. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I'm almost done. I got 100 more strokes and I'm done. So you're gonna be done, and then you start thinking about, okay, well, what do I need to do once I hit land? I get people to keep swimming until their hand touches the bottom, and once their hand touches the bottom, then stand up. But keep swimming until you can touch the bottom. The first thing I do is I get people to take their goggles, put them on their head, and then start taking off your wetsuit. So reach behind, grab your strap, pull it down, take one arm out, the other arm out, and then you can pull it down to your waist. And then you have a decision to make. Am I going to run with this wetsuit down to my waist to my bike, or am I going to use the strippers to take it off? And it's up to you whether you want to or not. Typically, I will not get strippers to do that. I don't want to waste the time. My suit can come off pretty quick, so I will run with my suit at my waist, get to the bike, strip it off, hop on the bike, and then out I go. But if you have trouble getting your wetsuit off, then absolutely use the strippers. Strippers are people that are there to help pull the wetsuit off, and it makes it easier for you. And so if you have trouble getting out of your wetsuit, I would highly recommend you use the strippers, and they're very quick. So don't think, oh, well, Todd doesn't use it, so I'm not going to use it either. I encourage people to use it, and a lot of people like the strippers a lot. And then once you're running, again, the top, I don't know, 15% will be running, going fast. The rest of the athletes, they're not going that fast. They're not going that fast. They just want to get this done. So they're gradually, slowly getting through the transition. Transition's pretty big. You can see it's pretty long. Use some kind of landmark to know where your bike is. These days, I find everybody and their dog has a black bike. So
Yeah.
you're running in transition. Like, what color is your bike, Stephen?
My bike's black, and I also have a story about that because every single bike I've bought since I moved in with my girlfriend has been black. Because anytime I buy a new bike and I roll it past her, is that a new bike? No, I've had this black one for ages. I have five black bikes, and she never comes out to the shed. It's perfect.
Well, there you go. There's a tip for people when they're buying a new bike. But when you're running in transition and they're all about black bikes, they all look the same. So you need to figure out, well, where is it? So if you look on the map, you might say, well, it's near the second porta potty, or it's near this tree, or it's near the exit, or it's near the entrance, or whatever. But before the race, have a little mental note of where you're running to, because you can lose a lot of time just trying to figure out where your bike is.
Yeah.
And use that time to calm down and get your breathing under control. You come to your bike, you take your wetsuit off, you put your wetsuit down, you pick up your helmet on before you touch your bike, put your glasses on. If you're wearing any extra clothes, put that on, gloves or arm warmers. This race is in July, so you probably won't need extra clothing because it's typically pretty warm. But if it could be a chilly day or maybe a raining day, you want to put on a kind of a rain jacket or not, and then out you go and you start your bike ride.
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. The key thing there, as you said, walking the transition beforehand, and it's not only like people make the mistake. Okay, right, I need to walk from the swim to the with my bike, but also walk from when the bike in because it all looks very different when when you're coming back in and making sure when you're doing the transition recce, as I would call it, you're doing the bike in. Where is the dismount line? As in, where do I have to actually stop my bike in its entirety and get off it before, and then where do I run it? Because you'd be coming in from a different angle from you are from when you're coming from the swim. So having that, and as I said, the landmarks absolutely key. My first race when I did it in Frankfurt, I was very naive and I went, "Oh, I'm beside that green bike." It was very, very definitely going to be able to find that. Of course, Mr. Green Bike was a way faster swimmer than them. There was no green bike to look for. So you got to
That's
find
so
something.
funny.
So you have to find something inanimate, like as you said, a portaloo, something that's not going to move, and find it. And it's good actually as well. The you mentioned the wetsuit strippers. By the way, I'm delighted you call them strippers. Any of the American coaches I have interviewed, they're all calling them peelers, and it's too politically correct for me. And it's
Hey,
all, but
strippers or
also,
peelers or whatever you want to call them.
but it sounds funny if you take it out of context. Just to go like, yeah, no, and everyone likes strippers, and I went, yeah, well, I mean, the peelers. But that is a great option. We don't have that very much in Europe, as in like it's very much a DIY, get yourself out of the wetsuit. So whenever I race in North America, I always feel a little bit like I take advantage because I go like, I know how to take my wetsuit off, but I feel like I'm getting my money out of armor. Someone's
You
taking
like
off my
it. It's like a
wetsuit.
VIP treatment.
It's like a premium package. But yes, know whether you're going to use them. Make sure you're right. And I tell my guys, T1 needs to be a little, it's going to be a little bit more time. It needs to be a little more smooth because you can make mistakes in T1 that will come back to bite you if you don't put on your, was it you get a stone in your bike shoe, or if you drop nutrition, that's going to come back to bite you. You can recover more in T2, to be honest, because less equipment, etc. But make sure you know what you're doing. You're smooth, you're controlled. The breathing is massively important, as you pointed out, Todd, just because people are. And also, by the way, I love the fact you say congratulate yourself coming out of the water. First, a lot of newbies, you sort of go,
Oh
the
yeah.
swim, I was scared witless about it. I'm looking back at that lake. I've conquered it. I've got a bike to do. I've got a run to do. I've got loads of people cheering me on. This is going to be an epic day. So I love that. So, any other last minute T1 tips before we bounce on to our bike course?
Oh yeah, one thing is whatever time you're watching this video, because it could be who knows what year it is when you're watching it. Just note that courses change, so don't think that this is how it's always going to be. Make sure you know that when you get there on a race day, ask officials, ask volunteers, hey, how does this transition work? Where do I come in? Where do I go out? If as long as you get the flow, how everything works on race day, and also when you're there, like when you're in the middle of transition there, like really there, not looking at a picture, it looks different. And so
Yeah.
you want to get your bearings organized so that you know where you are. And the more you know about something, the more confident you're going to be when you get there. Because in the morning, like right there, it's empty. But in the morning, where you have 1,000 people running around, everything looks very different and chaotic. And you want it to be as smooth and controlled as possible.
Yeah, and there's a little phrase, Paul Kay, one of the main announcers over on the European circuit, he talks about, I look out and he does a race briefing. And by the way, attend the race briefing if you can, read the athlete guide, as I said, this video will give you lots of solid tips that will be timeless, but there's going to be of course things that will change. But Paul Kay has this brilliant line. He goes, I look out, I see doctors, I see successful businessmen, I see successful, was it aspects. And you know how I make you completely stupid? I put you in Lycra, I put a Garmin on you, and I tell you you have to go from A to B really quickly, and you forget all the common sense and everything that's got you, and you start doing stupid things. I call it race brain. And as he said, just calm. As in, if you slow down just to get your bearings, it's better than trying to rush into something and kind of like pick up someone. I've seen people pick up the wrong people's bike shoes. I've seen people pick up the wrong bikes and like you breathe, control, and back in the game. Righty ho. We will talking about the bike. We will bounce on. Oh, okay. Before we listen, I hope you're enjoying this chat as much as myself and Todd are. Just a quick one. Please do subscribe because not only do I do these, there's other content. I also do other race reviews. Make sure you check out Todd on his. He's much cooler than me. He's got a bigger Instagram following. I'm more of a YouTuber. So make sure you check out his content, make your social network, social details. I put them in the comments below, and make sure you like the video just to show you're enjoying the lads' conversation here. Right. Um, the bike course. This is a very unusual map in terms of the tip. Like as I said, it's quite non-Ironman specific, but it looks like it's got a bit more life to it. Do you want to talk us through how the bike course pans out, Todd?
Yeah, before we do that, this race is not your typical Ironman branded race. And I think it's independently owned 7.3, which means that when you come to this event, it's a little different than other 7.3 events. And so some people will notice that. So it's a little bit more grassroots.
Hmm.
Um, you may like that or you may not like that. I kind of like it. And so over the years, this race has really grown and progressed to being a good race. So if you're thinking about coming to Calgary, I highly encourage you to come and check it out. It gets better and better each year. And this race course is the last from last year, which was 2024. And I got to say, it's a really good course. I've afterwards, I was chatting with many athletes, and we said that was a really good bike course. Not too hard, not too easy. It was a good bike course. So just know that coming into the race. that it's a good bike course. And one thing you want to know is you can see that Trans Canada right in the middle there, that red dot down the middle, not dot, but the line. That's our major highway here in Alberta, and we don't cross it. I know it looks like we do, but there's actually a tunnel where we go under, which is pretty
Um,
cool. So when we come out, we're going under the highway, and then we're going along Springbank Road, and so these are the country roads. And so a lot of the roads that we're going to be on are country roads, so they're less quiet. But just know that it's not cut off to traffic. So traffic is out there, and what that means is that when you're racing, you do need to stay to the left-hand side and just be aware that there's cars on the road and just keep your wits about you. Just like when you're out there on a training ride, you want to really stay alert to what's happening around you so you don't get schmucked by a car. And like Steven said, that some people get race brain when they're racing, they forget about doing the common sense things. Well, you need to stay doing the normal things when you're biking this course is staying left. If you're going to pass someone, shoulder check right. We check on the right side, make
yeah,
sure
yeah,
there's not cars there, and then pass that person, then get over to the left. Do not take over that lane because you're racing, because
yeah.
there's people on cars that do need to pass, and that's a really good way to annoy the traffic out there. So
Yeah,
that's
and
just
it's
something to keep in
communication as
mind.
well. As if when you're taught, when you're about to overtake someone, I'm coming, lads, and like so, like, don't shock someone as well. As in, again, situational awareness, especially on a kind of an open road with kind of whatever you've got set areas for yourself. But communication, situation awareness is absolutely vital. You do not do anything daft, as in suddenly go on the other side of the road because there's two guys there. Well, wait till it's safe to pass. Like, don't risk your life over whatever 30-second bike spit. Sorry.
And because it's two loops, the faster riders will be coming into the slower riders. And what happens is there's athletes on the course, and even if you're fast or slow, just of all different abilities. And there's some athletes have been racing for 20 years. There's some athletes who've never done this before, so they have no clue of what they're doing. So you really have to kind of keep an open mind. So thinking about what is this person going to do? So what I do is if I'm approaching someone, I have a look and see how they're riding, right? Because are they riding all over the place, or are they riding straight, or what are they doing? And so kind of make an assessment of that person before you pass. In Canada, we're going to pass on the right. So you can just say, hey, on your left. And it tells them, the person in front, hey, I'm going to be passed. So you know that someone's going to pass you.
Yeah. And again, and it's also from what I've seen, I 100% agree. I always watch the riders if they're a little bit wobbly. I give them lots of conversation to kind of almost talk them through it because otherwise, hey, I'm on your left, and then you have this moment where if it's a weaker rider, they turn around to see who's shouting at them, and then they veer. So I shout early and go, no, 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 just stay where you are. I'm gonna come around. You're actually literally having a conversation with them, and then as I pass by, listen, you're doing great. Keep your head down. Just keep going. You're definitely gonna make cut off or whatever. Just even a bit of positivity rather than this big aggressive kind of Irish bloke. By the way, I'm only 5'6", and that turns around, that's shouting at them and all the rest. And it's because
You look
everyone's
taller
having
on
a
video.
the what? I look
You look taller on video.
it's all Photoshop. Um, yeah. So these type of races, it's key that you're talking, you're communicating, even if you're at the pointy end. And especially with a looped course, you're 100% right. You're going to be overtaking the kind of the slower riders, but respect all the riders on the course. Um, and by the way, I love the fact that you actually go under the highway. I did a race in Venice there, where we passed it, but they actually built these what you call it, scaffolding bridges over them, which are scary as hell because they were red carpet on them, and they went right over like the Lily Bridge, and they all just got wet because people were dropping water bottles and stuff, and it was just terrifying. Going under, much better. Anything else specific about the course, Todd? It looks like there's a couple of kind of sharp, kind of 90-degree turns. You got to be got your wits about there. It looks like there's a dog leg here as well. How's that all pulled together?
It comes together pretty good. Like here in Canada, we want to make right-hand turns, so you're not crossing traffic. So having those right-hand turns are good. So um, I mean, there's going to be some left-hand turns, but there's not that many. Most of them are right. And yeah, when you come to those sharp turns, I recommend for most people to drive the course so you know what you're getting into and just slow down. There'll be volunteers out saying, slow down, slow down. And when volunteers are telling you to slow down, don't go, hey man, I'm so good. I'm just going to roll through. Actually listen to them and slow down so that you can make that corner appropriately. Because if you're coming in too hot, you can cross over to the other side where there's athletes heading out. And so it can be a bit of a disaster. So just come in slow and in control and speed. And I tell a lot of my athletes this is, look, whether you want to hear this or not, you're not going to win the race. You're not going to win. So just chill out there and enjoy your day, do your best, but don't worry about seconds because for most people, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win. So just go out there and do your best. And we really want to have safe races for everybody. Everybody, we want to do this event and come home not in an ambulance, not with broken bones,
Yeah.
but with a medal around our neck saying, "Hey, I did that." Right? So the primary focus of this is to have fun and do your best.
No, absolutely. And
So
really, majority of us are racing our own times. And
yeah,
having said that, there's a way to actually completely ruin your chance of a PB is if you slide out on a corner. You can race as hard as you can in a controlled fashion. And you're right, marshals are not there waving a flag saying sharp corner just because they're having a crack. They're there because they know it's a sharp corner. They know in previous years that people have spilled on that corner. Listen to them, and you'll have a safer day. And as you said, you'll come home probably with a better run split overall, and that medal around your neck. Um, cool.
so
Any
some
other?
things to think about on the bike course is that, to the left is the west, where the mountains are, and to the right is the east. And so our wind typically blows from west to east. So you can have a tailwind heading to the right of this bike course. And so you can go along pretty quick, but then when you come down to the bottom of the bike course, you could be heading back into the wind. And what I tell people to do is, if you have a power meter, watch your power numbers. Don't look at your speed because your speed can drop dramatically. But if you can hold the same power that you're used to, then that will help you set you up for your second loop without blowing your brains out. Now there are some hills involved near the end of Springbank Road. There's a really good hill coming down 101st Street. There's a good descent. When you get to the bottom of 101st Street, there is a was it 17th? My screen is cut off.
Oh yeah.
Hang on.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Yeah,
17th
yeah, yeah.
Avenue is yeah, it's a bit of a you coming down there at speed, so I encourage you to use your brakes. Every time I'm coming down there, I'm braking. I get some athletes who are just rocketing down there at some crazy speed. I'm like, dude, just slow down. Slow down. It's best to slow down so you can take those corners appropriately. You're not going to win the race, and I don't want you taking me out. So just really be attentive and alert to
Yeah.
other athletes on the course, and there will be slower athletes on loop too. So don't be that person who scares the heck out of someone because they're coming down the hill. But just be aware of those areas. And then there's a little loopy loop there on Lower Springbank Road. That's fun. You just go in there through a community, and it's just a great way to. I think there's a. I thought there was an aid station there, but there wasn't. I just remember having some athletes there cheering me on. And it was really a fun little loop there. And then you start loop two, and then you do it all again. Then you come back. Coming back, you could be coming into the wind, and you're going to be tired after doing almost 90K, and then just keep pushing forward. Come under that bridge, and then come back into Harmony, where you're going to start the run course. And like I said, it's a beautiful course. You're out there in the country. It's a good controlled course, but I do highly recommend everyone to drive it in their car or watch a video about what is coming up and just kind of do a bit of a run through in your mind about where the turns are. The more you know about the course, the better you're going to handle the course.
Yeah. Actually, and it's a great call. We also have in the video and the links below a video from the endurance guy who has done the 70 Calgary thing. It is this cool thing where he does a relive and he does the Google map so you can actually see spots on that. So make sure you check that out in the links below. Final question from the bike course, TT or road bike? It seems to me screaming, even there's a little bit of hills in it. If you have a TT bike, it's something that you would come and throw at it. Yes, no?
So the older I get, Stephen, the less I like a triathlon bike, and I'd rather have a road bike. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is, but I'm like, you could do it on whatever bike you have. However, there's a lot of flatness that you could still do a triathlon bike on it for sure. The majority of people doing this race will have tri bikes, but you could totally do it on a road bike with clip-ons for sure. So I'm probably not the best person to ask that because I'm like, you know what, just give me a road bike and then I'll do it.
I've There's a couple of TT bikes out my shed who are shuddering at what you're saying here. As in, like, they're like, don't listen to him, Stephen. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You love the TT bikes.
You know what? It's just it is what it is, and I've over the past few years, I'm on my TT bike and I'm getting passed by athletes on road bikes. I'm like, what the heck? This should not be happening, but it happens. So don't think like when you're doing a triathlon that you have to have a tri bike because you don't. You
No.
don't. I've raced a 7.3 on a gravel bike, and you could do that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And to be honest, by the way, as I said, if we're going to get into the philosophicals of triathlon, triathlon can be as expensive a sport or as cost effective a sport as you need it to be. There are so many things you can buy in triathlon, which might give you marginal gains. But if you don't do the training, you're wasting your time. The but you can also do it on a shoestring, as in you can do it on, as I said, just your standard road bike. Was it aluminium? From the 1990s and all the rest, it will get you through. And if you've got the legs to turn the pedals, it's better than having a 10 grand TT bike and you haven't done any of the training and you can't sit. All you just look is a bit funny when you get passed by people on and hybrids.
Although it looks really good on Instagram.
Oh, it does. I only do it for the photographs. Righty-ho. Aid stations. Actually, you can ignore this because I've got that from a different yoke, but you can see where the aid stations are here. We're going to talk a little bit about aid stations before we go on. The T1 and your swim time and your bike time, you have 5.5 hours to get it done. Any last minute on the bike course before we bounce into T2? Actually, one going to bounce to T. We're going to talk about aid stations first. Now, this is me learning about Canada as well. This is now it's interesting to say that it's a more grassroots version of an Ironman, and that makes sense seeing like the way they do the maps and all this. And I love that, by the way. It gives it a bit of character. But this is the standard flow of an Ironman aid station. And if you're new to 70.3 racing, this is key. This is going to be the reason how you're going to get home. You can only chuck rubbish, litter, trash, whatever you guys are calling it in Canada, between the start of the aid station and the end of the aid station. And two things will happen if you don't. One, you're going to be a dick, and you're actually well, you don't need to. Was it litter? I mean, you're forgetting the fact you're a guest in Alberta, and you have to respect the countryside. Two, hopefully you will get spotted by a marshal and you get a red card, and that'll be the end of your race. But the reason we litter in here or drop off bottles or gel wrappers, it means Ironman can come along with its marvelous in the machine, suck it all up, and we're gone, and we're not. It's as if we were never even there. We leave only footprints. We take only photographs. We have to remember we are guests in these people's country, and then we're absolutely privileged to do this. So that's the first thing, and I go on about that a little bit. But once you get into the aid station, you can pick up water. I believe it's mortal hydration in Canada. Oh no, there we go. There's a learning there. But there will be bananas and energy bars. There will be Morton gels, possibly. Um,
I don't remember if we had Morton or not. We didn't definitely did not have Mortal Hydration. We had something called F2C.
oh,
But honestly, I don't take a lot of stuff at the aid station. I'm usually more self
sustaining.
sufficient, I guess. I have my own gels, my own fluid. What I do take on to cool myself off is the water, but I don't rely on the aid stations for gels or typically the drinks. I honestly don't. I just use the water.
Okay, no, that's a good thing to know. And again, there's an element of that. It, you can bring in no, we can carry all you want if you want, if in terms of your own fuel. If you're not comfortable with what they have on the aid station, that is a strategy. I always tell my guys not to try and carry everything because there will be water on board, and if you can stomach Morton gels if they're on it, or if you can take bananas and do it because it means you're not carrying everything on the bike. Um, but at bare minimum, water is water, and it will come in the bottles that you can put in the bottle cages, or you can fill up your front hydration system and then chuck it before you leave the last chance. That's why it's at the start, and that's why it's at the end. Um, aid stations themselves are very unique to kind of middle distance to full distance racing, as in you will be coming into high risk area because let's say that there's volunteers handing out bottles. It's the only place you can chuck your rubbish. And there's lots of people moving in, lots of moving parts. So you need to know how an aid station works. You also need to know how you navigate it safely and get what you need and get out safely. And there's a couple of do's and don'ts in terms of shout at the volunteer politely that, I want water because they've got water, they've got ISO, whatever the drink is, I've got a banana. And if you just suddenly swing and start grabbing at it, it's going to confuse you. Make eye contact with them. Tell people you're coming in, back to that situational awareness, back to the communication. I'm going in for water. I'm going in rather than what I saw again in 70.3 Venice, where one guy just plowed through, just went from one side of the road, didn't even realize where the aid station was on the course. First mistake. He went, oh, aid station, and veered all the way over and took out two bikes. Just you can minimize that risk, knowing where the aid stations are and knowing how it works. I have a video in the links below that shows you how to do it. There's videos on demonstrations. It's all very clever and it's one of my best videos ever. So make sure you check it out. Any other last minute tips on aid stations for Todd?
Yeah, so just you may not even need to use an aid station. And if you don't need to use an aid station, then don't go near the volunteers. So they'll be standing there with the bottle out, and you just go to the left so that people that need an aid station can use it because they're gonna be coming in slowing down. If you don't slow down, then you crash into that person. So if you're coming in to get something, slow down a little bit so you can easily get it. Like I was just racing in New Zealand and I was at second or third aid station. I was coming in to get a bottle and I was slowing down and a guy came in front of me. It was a little bit wet out and he smacked on the ground. Now, because I was going slow, I could just go around him. But aid stations can be very tricky spots and high risk for crashes. So if you don't need to use an aid station, go to the left and just roll through. A lot of people don't use the first aid station anyhow, but
Yeah.
if you do, just go in, slow down, and keep your senses about you. Make sure you know who's coming up behind you because it could be just because you're in the front doesn't mean you're the fastest athlete. I've known a lot of fast cyclists who are horrible swimmers and they come out at the back, but they're coming strong. So just make sure it's safe before you come back onto the race course, so you're not going to get in a bike accident. But other than that, I think you handle it pretty well there, Stephen.
I feel attacked. Have you seen my swim?
Oh no 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 no! I'm sure you're fine.
Let's put it this way: I'm a good biker. I'm a good runner. My swim is horrible. So you're the type of person I track down on your road bike, as in like after your stellar swim split. Like I call you people fish, which you have to chase. It's great.
Oh, I would use a road bike, but I still use a tri bike. I still use it, but I would use a road bike if I had
I
one.
will have to race. We'll have to figure out how this works out. I'm curious. I'll sign up to Calgary. Okay. All right, back to our transition two in itself. Again, you'll be coming in. Remember, you're coming in from a different angle. You're coming in from the bike in. This will have the dismount line. Again, you have to stop your bike 100% and take yourself off it before you get to this line. There'll be volunteers waving. Make sure you know when that's coming. It's not gonna, so it's not a shock that you're coming in and you're on the aero bars and suddenly you're like, it's 2 yards away and you pull the brakes up and it flies up. I did that in Barcelona at one stage. I was just too excited about my bike split, thinking I was going to go under 5 hours, and then I completely forgot. I ended up trying to get my leg over, pull the brake same time. My wheel went up and it flew across and hit some poor German guy in the head.
Oh my
He,
gosh.
I apologized to him afterwards, and he was quite happy that it all worked out. But again, just know what's happening. Again, back to Todd's kind of point where you know what you're doing beforehand. Think about what you're going to do before you come in, and then you're prepared. In, out of transition. You guys do have bike catchers in Canada, or okay, so you rack your own bike.
Depends on the race. And this race here, no, you're wrecking your own bike. So you'll run in, you'll come in, and then you'll run or walk your bike to your transition area. And then you'll take your helmet off, take your bike shoes off. I mean, you could take your bike shoes off before you get to the dismount line. Some athletes like that. Like I prefer to do that. I'd rather run in bare feet than run on bike shoes. And then once you get to the bike, helmet off, run hat on, your socks on, shoes on, and then off you go. Grab your number belt and off you go.
Yeah, and there's your run out. So for me, transition two is a lot simpler. And again, what I kind of the key thing I say with our squad, we believe that nothing good happens in T2. And we're gonna get t-shirts printed up. It'll be a perfect merchandise opportunity that we just you're getting, as you said, dismount, rack the bike, take your helmet off, get your runners on, and then at that stage, everything else you do can be done on the move. As in, like I get my guys have gel and their sunglasses in their baseball cap or their visor. So once the shoes are on, start moving. As in, you can put a baseball cap on while moving. You put your shades on. You can take a gel when you're running. And at that stage, you covered 400, 500 meters, and you go, actually, I'm on it. I'm already. Whereas you sit down and you see lads are stretching their hamstrings, and I start going, "Oh, I'm gonna, yeah. How's your bike split?" And I start talking to people on transition two. I went, "No, things are getting cold. Your muscles are cramping. Get out. Get moving. And you're getting one every step closer is a step closer home." That sounds like quantum leap. Positive.
I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here because I used to be like you. I used to be like you and get in, get out as fast as you can. And I think that's great for a certain athlete, but I found that there's a lot of athletes, they want to sit down. They want to take a breather. They've just done 90K. Like, you know what? Nice job. Let's sit down and let's get this thing on right. And then once I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. And so I remember watching that for the first time and watching some athletes, we work so hard in the pool to take off 15, 20 seconds over time swim. And then I see them sitting down in transition going, what are you doing? And then I realized they're doing this because this is what they want to do. They want to slow down the transition and take their time and then get it out. So I like your tip for certain athletes, but sitting down, getting things through and being okay is great. Now, if you are close to the cutoff, you don't have a lot of time to spare. Keep moving. Don't be chit-chatting with people. Get in, do your stuff, and then get out. But sitting down is totally fine because a lot of people will do that.
I'll completely take that on board. I'll also put into context when we go abroad and we race against our friends, we do have a rule. The last person in is buying the beers. So sitting down is not an option for me in the transition. I'll be sitting down the long stools having, but I also will be building up quite a substantial barbell at that stage. But no, you're right, and we are catering to all guys. As in, if you do need to stretch your hamstrings, you do. It's there's no one size fits all for this. This is great. Todd's giving good tips. I'm giving good tips. So I hope you're taking away from that.
If you come to do this race, Stephen, you'll love it because at the end you get a beer. They give you a real beer.
Perfect. So even if I come in last,
Yeah.
I said, lads, that was my round.
Yeah, there you go. So race slower, and then just there you go. There's my beer.
That's right. Racing smarter, isn't it? There's a smart endurance solutions. Oops, sorry. Drop me a plug there. Rightio. We're now on to speaking of the run. We have got a 2 lap run. We are starting. Here's our transition area. What can they expect on the run course? Is it rough surface? Is it all on tarmac or concrete? What's the expectation?
So yeah, you can see right by the lake, and you start by heading north. North, yeah. And then you're running up towards the number one for that's the first kilometer. You're running on a sidewalk, and there used to be a dirt section, but it's been paved. Now, the thing to note about this, Stephen, is the community it's being held in is a fairly new community called Harmony. And so because it's a new community, they don't have like a lot of trees or a lot of, you know, old things there. So they're building things each year, and this golf course is, relatively new too. So they need time for the trees to grow up. So there's not a lot of shade. So you're gonna be running on a course that's gonna be full exposure to the sun. So that could be hot. So remember before you start, if you need to put on sunscreen or wear sleeves to protect your skin or wear a baseball cap. Just so think about that when you're out there for 21 kilometers. It's a long time to be running and being exposed to the sun. Now, I think they call this a flat course, and it's not really a flat course. There's a couple of hills in there. not crazy hills, but there are some hills. And if you're thinking about you're coming in to do this race and it's flat, it isn't. There are some hills. I think between like on the top there from 2 to 13, there's that hill there, and um, there's a hill from that 10 to 20 section on the map too. And I like this course up near the top left as a course heads towards that turn. That was a new segment from for this year, and I enjoyed that. My run wasn't very fast. I didn't feel like I had a good rhythm going, but I did note that I enjoyed the course. I enjoyed it being two loops. It gives you multiple chances to see your spectators and friends on the course, and I think they did a really good job.
Ooh. I do like the fact that you're saying it's a new community, and as I know, so like the way from trees are growing. I'm coming from a country that's hundreds of years old. We've loads of trees. But it's kind of cool that you're creating new communities. Lovely.
Yeah.
And is it well supported? Are the people of Harmony behind the race? Do they enjoy it or?
This is where you'll see a difference between Calgary and say if you're in I don't know, like Spain. Like if you're racing in Barcelona or Calella, you're gonna have a lot of people out there cheering you on. Here, like on the run course, once you get out of transition, it's there's not a lot of people out there. The people that will be cheering you on are people that are at the aid stations,
Yeah.
and they're usually well supported, but you're not going to have crowds along the course. You'll have crowds by transition and at the aid stations, but other than that, not so much.
Okay, cool. All right, but and different sort of terrain, etc. A couple of hills in it, pace it well. Aid stations every kind of what you call it, every 1 mile. Again, it'll be the standard format of water, whatever the isotonic, the F13 thing,
F2C.
F2C. There'll be food, Morton gels if they're on, or and there'll be Coke, which is kind of the thing. And then there's again, respect the littering concept. Never miss an aid station, as I tell my guys, as in even if you're taking on board a little bit of fuel or you're taking on a bit of water to wet down your core temperature, or just actually getting a bit of isotonic to flush out your mouth and all the rest. Never miss something, as in get something from it and then move it on. Any other last minute tips on the run course, Todd?
Yeah, one of my favorite tips I like to give people, especially if it's going to be a hot day, is to in your transition, pick up like a sandwich bag, like a Ziploc bag, and you run with that, one, two of those bags. And when you come to an aid station, if they're offering ice, what you do is you put ice into that bag, you Ziploc it, and now you got this ice pack. You can pass from hand
Nice.
to hand, put it on your head, put it down your top, put it down your back, put it someplace to cool yourself off. It's really nice. And I learned another tip too that I will try this year. And not just a sandwich bag, but if you put little holes in it, then it will slowly leak out.
Ah,
It's like, oh,
like a little
it's
cold shower in
brilliant
your pants.
in your pants or in your top or your back or wherever. And it's on a hot day, it's like, oh, that feels so good. And so that
That's
could be the difference between you having a good run and a great run.
beautiful. I do know what the best thing about these race reviews? I'm still learning little tips. I've been coaching for 20 years and like there's some great little tips. I haven't heard that before. That's fabulous. The great. Listen, just to get because we are a little bit over time, but I think it's been info packed. The swim, your T1, your bike, your T2, and your run time, you've got 8.5 hours to get it done. Follow myself and Todd's tips. Watch this video, know your enemy. You will have a great, you will become in a lot faster than that. This is your finish line. It does look like well supported. There's your Ironman red carpet. Finish on grass. Fantastic. The other things, just we're going to talk a little bit about the race itself, but we won't spend a huge amount of time. Just some other things I'd like to point out because myself and Todd have made reference to them during the video. As we are super coaches, we've talked about nutrition and fueling and hydration. We could talk about that for ages. There's an actual video with kind of key do's, don'ts, and like what you need to check out and don't believe all the marketing that says you have to eat a gel every 30 minutes because they're trying to sell gels. There's other options, yada, yada. Check that out in the comments below. If you are coming to beautiful Canada from America, Europe, yada, yada, you will need to know what to pack, how to pack your bike. There's a video on that. how to taper for a race. This is why myself and Todd earn our money when we have people ringing us up and they follow the plan diligently, and then suddenly they lose their marbles and start telling me that their leg's broken, they've got some sort of virus when they don't. It's just, and that they should be doing a long bike. It's taper madness. It's part of the build up. It's part of your journey, and we give you hints and tips how to go that. The how to actually check out some things you should do in the lead up for your race when you've got time free in your hands and you're actually talking to your family again at the weekends, and that you should do in the lead up to race. Double check your logistics, reread the athlete brief, make sure you watch this video again, and check was it make sure that you've got your Sherpa plan, where are they going to be, where you're going to meet them, do all these things. There's some great tips in that video there. Right, before we wrap up, kind of last minute on race day itself, okay? It's a Sunday race, so you can start checking in on Friday. And between 2 and 8, you will have to drop your bike off on the day before, and that's where you pick up your timing chip. Is that the same at the Calgary?
You know what? I just whatever it is, it is. I mean, I would just highly just recommend and read the athlete guide because this could change year to year. So I wouldn't focus too much on this.
Yeah.
Just look at whatever it says and then just follow what you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The race day itself, you're looking at probably a 5:30 transition open. Your pull start will start at 7. What's your final top tips for on the morning of the race? What does Todd do? His must do's on the race morning.
Well, you can choose to have breakfast or not, right? So that's the first thing. And then I like to go to the bathroom as soon as possible. So when I get to the area, I don't even go to the transition area. I look for the porta potty and I try to go in as soon as possible. The lineups can get so big. I will do that before I do anything else because I can do transition and leave that to like 5 minutes before the start. But the porta potty lines are something that's I like to get over with sooner than later. That's my biggest tip is to go to the porta potty line and do that. And I like to bring a checklist with me. So have a transition checklist written out. And what you do is you take that with you into your bike. So you're going to check things out, make sure everything is how you want it. So your helmet's where it should be, your bike's in the right gear, you have tire pressure, your brakes aren't rubbing, your gels are where they should be, your salt is where it should be. Just go through that check mark because once you do that, you realize I'm good to go, and you can walk to the swim knowing that when you get to your T2 or T1, you're going to be okay.
Yeah, no,
And that's it.
absolutely. Um, I'm gonna double down on your tip for the move. The it was getting the porta. I'm terrified of the portaloos. I think they're little blue portals to hell. So yes, they're better at the start. They're not great to it, and so I always try if I try to get any sort of main toilets done before if I'm in the hotel and I try to coordinate my caffeine intake accordingly. But also, if you have to, I always tell people bring a little thing of toilet paper because sometimes nothing worse going into a portaloo and you find that someone's it's not there, and that's not something you want to do with. So always have it. No, but those are absolutely brilliant tips, and I think that we've covered an awful lot in the hour there. Um, I just want to shout out Todd. I do want to touch base with Todd in terms of even possibly getting coach for Calgary, or is there just further questions on the course? He, as you can see, he's a bang up nice guy. He's very knowledgeable. He's super chilled. Definitely send him an email, and I'll put his socials in the comments below. And aside from that, Todd, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure. Our little chat beforehand was great. I really enjoyed this. And thank you very much on behalf of everyone who's watched the video.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I enjoyed it, and it's always good to be part of another YouTube video to help people. And that's what we do as triathlon coaches is our goal is to help you have a great day and have that race that you dream of and make it go as smoothly as possible because that's what we all want. All of us, no matter where we are, what level we're at, we want to get to the start line and we want to get to the finish line and feel good about what we just did. And that's our job. I think it's the coolest job in the world. and that we get to help people do that. And it's incredibly rewarding. And I look forward to seeing people out there. And if you're just watching this video and you're racing Calgary 7.3, well, look for me. I'll be wearing no limits. I'll have to be racing around the sideline. I always tell people, if you see me and you don't know me, come up and chat with me. I'm happy to chat to anyone who wants to chat with me because I think it's pretty cool that you've seen me on YouTube or Instagram or whatever social media thing that we have these days, and don't feel weird about doing that. I know it's a weird thing, but come on up and chat with me. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and as I said, he's an absolute gent as well, as a very interesting bloke. Lots to him. Definitely go on. And when you introduced him, tell him you enjoyed watching him on the video, but the good-looking Irish guy stole his thunder a little bit. But he had obviously more course specific info. But yeah, Stephen pulled the whole thing together.
I'll tell you what, though, Stephen, you've got me thinking about maybe I want to go to Ireland and do a race there.
Do you know what? We've had a brilliant race in 70.3 Cork. Unfortunately, got cancelled, but hopefully it's going to come back. But there's loads of domestic 70.3s or even Olympics, and they're absolutely as well run. We're all run by clubs, and if you do pop over, we will go to a race together, and we'll have the same rule: last person in is buying the beers, and I might puncture your bike, but you might find your bike punctured when you get to T1. You
I'm not
might.
a big beer drinker anyway, so that's okay.
That's okay. Whatever you're having. Listen, we will leave it there. Thank you very much for watching, and again, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment.